It's been 50 years this August. It's something I'll never forget, you know. It's something you witness and you just go on. Those poor people didn't. Their lives were ended young. They were young. All of them were young. In their 20s, I think. In their 20s. The Sharon Tate murder with 5 dead bodies was one of the most horrific things I've ever seen in the whole time I was a policeman. And nothing compares to it, to that murder scene. Sharon Tate was a beautiful lady. She was gorgeous. When I looked at her when I bent down to check her out to see if she was still alive, I thought, this is the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my life. The only wound I could see on Sharon Tate was right in her pregnant belly, and it was a big gash with an avulsion cut. It was like they were almost going to cut the baby out of her. That's what it looked like.
So, Bob, when you're confronted with a crime scene like the one you were at, what do you think about who could have done this?
I was thinking there's somebody and people wanted to kill these people awful bad. That's all I could think, and I have no idea why they killed them. Was a motivation robbery? I don't think so. Vengeance. I thought it was a vengeance thing.
What made you think it was vengeance?
It was brutally done. It wasn't like they were just shot and executed one at a time. It looked like there was, the way it was staged, with the ropes around Sharon Tate's neck and the other one around Jay Sebring's neck. It baffles me. It really does. I can't understand why any person would do anything, would kill for another person for no reason. To me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you got to be hypnotized or something by this person. And maybe Manson had that power because it was sex and drugs. That's what the whole thing was about. At the time, I thought a man did all this killing when I was walking through the crime scene. I would have never suspected a woman killing people like the way they was butchered, basically, and they were butchered.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia,
from the high plains of the Midwest, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever your time zone might be. My nod to the late and great Art Bell. I'm Keith Sharp.
And I'm G. Dressel.
And we welcome you to Life After Life, a paranormal webcast where we talk about the paranormal, UFOs, or the unexplained. And the biggest question of them all, what happens when we die? Stay tuned.
And cut.
You did it, dude. Kind of.
No, yeah. When you go through the scenes, it's like you'll show us, and then it'll show a picture
Yeah.
of the slideshow. So it
Back
just,
in the saddle again.
yeah, it's fine. It's
Back in the
fine.
saddle again.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Oh my God.
You can blame him
Wait,
for all the shows we missed. No, I'm just teasing.
you had a grandkid.
And well, that and then the next,
Yeah, that's
but
exciting.
it wasn't. Yeah, and it wasn't we went 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, it's okay.
We're gonna do another one next week, and then we'll be gone. It's our summer schedule.
Yeah,
it's our
it's a summer schedule, and then we'll talk about that in a minute because he's going to be going to Florida
Yep.
in a couple of weeks, so we may miss a show. I'm not sure.
And then all the kids go back to school in August, and
We could reschedule the show around that and still not miss a show. You're only going to be gone for 3 or 4
Absolutely.
days, right?
No, I'll be gone for 10.
Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, that ain't happening then. Yeah, I don't want to do it by myself, so yeah, that'd be bad. Oh, yeah, I could do it with Pam.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez, man.
So, how was everybody's week? And that includes everybody in the chat room. And Pam, how was your week, sweetie?
It's been hectic again, as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked the weekend again, and then I Apparently, I don't know if I have an ear infection or a TMJ issue or both,
And she's here.
but I'm
Of course she's here.
medicated.
Good, good.
You're medicated.
Yeah,
Awesome.
not that kind, not the fun stuff.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that kind of would go with the show.
An antibiotic and a steroid taper.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you guys, I had a grandson, which is awesome.
Finally.
Yeah. It's number 5. 4 granddaughters, 1 grandson.
Yes. I got my
it's-
second nephew.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And Dylan's got a nephew now,
Yeah,
so he's excited
absolutely.
about it. So how about you, Garrett? How was your week?
Man, it was good. It was crazy. I was just going to say what a great 4th of July.
Oh, we had a
I
blast.
think the best 4th of July we've had, definitely.
Garrett doesn't remember the last 2-3 hours of our 4th of July.
yeah,
It was an awesome celebration, man.
somebody had a birthday too.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
happy birthday, Keith.
Thanks. Yep. Had a birthday.
Dude, what's it feel like to be 50?
I feel old. You know, I hate getting older because it's like the older you get, it's like you still make these plans.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, wait a minute, I probably got another 20 years left. That's it.
Oh, that's plenty.
You know?
Dude, you got more than that for yourself.
Yeah, I don't know.
I told Taylor
It gets depressing as you get older.
I'll make it to 90 and just, that's probably it.
So let's do a few shout outs here. Scott, hey man, good to see you, buddy. Bubba Randy, who he had a doo-doo week, looks like, down at the
sorry,
bottom.
Randy.
Sorry about that, Bubba. Still got a job though, right?
That's a lot of poop emojis.
That is. Mona, good to see you. Jennifer,
Hello.
hello. Is that
Nate, say that.
what's that?
Say that word.
What?
Meritziger Design.
Yeah, I can barely see it.
They had a pretty good point. It said that Polanski crowd.
Polanski crowd was not as
Yeah.
squeaky clean. Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, that's true. Especially Wojciech, and he was a problem. And Sharon was I think she was getting a little miffed at Roman's friends that were staying with her.
Right.
And it became a problem because there were a lot of drug stuff going on in and out, people coming in and out, and she's pregnant, just trying to chill, and
Yeah.
got these drug guys
Terrible.
constantly coming through. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Hey, I love that name. Mike's Time Machine.
Mike, if you're a time traveler, call us right now.
Yeah, dude.
The hell with the Manson show.
No questions asked, please.
All right. Mike's Time Machine. Awesome. Mona, of course. Patrick, hello. Everybody, I think I may have said a couple names twice. I don't know, but that's okay. Is that Mary's Design?
Yeah. And Courtney Katona.
Yeah.
Hi, Courtney.
Yeah.
Hello. And Teresa. Hi. Teresa said myth immediately.
Myth. Yeah. A lot of people think that.
Yeah.
It's.
Wait, did we give a shout out to Patrick McClure yet? Dude, this guy.
I just did.
Okay, sorry. This guy, first in chat,
First
always
in
ready
chat.
to go.
Pumped.
Pumped.
Pumped about the show. But.
Sorry, I cut you off. Yeah, so she said myth, like capital letters.
Yeah. I mean, Vince Bugliosi wrote Helter Skelter. I think it was 1975. I read it when it came out. I was 10 years old. So.
Where were your parents?
They were in the house. They knew. Well, I mean, my plan was to go to law school.
Right.
And he was a district attorney, and I kind of thought about being a prosecutor maybe, but decided, it's just too much damn school.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, that was all we had to go on the Manson case. There was really, there wasn't really any books about the case.
Right.
So Bugliosi's book was word at that time, and that's what everybody believed. And then things started kind of seeping out here and there. There's still some people that are strongly support the Helter Skelter theory.
Right.
And I get it
Do
because
you think it's a majority of people?
I think the people who are really into that case, probably not. But your average layperson, if you talk to them about the Manson case, they're going to say it was a start a race war.
Well, like I told you, people from my generation that are just familiar with it,
Yeah.
like probably think Charles Manson actually killed the people.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's what I thought
I
growing
had
up.
one guy that
Yeah.
thought his name was Helter Skelter. Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, that Helter Skelter guy. He said,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
But so that's all we had. And the books, like I said, it took till the 90s, I think, before, and maybe not. I mean, I studied it for a long time. I did a paper on it in college. I was into it, but there's a lot of people, probably even in the chat room, who knows more about the newer theories.
Right.
This is all new to me. I mean, I came across this about a year ago that, maybe a little longer than that the Helter Skelter theory may not be true, that it might have been a drug burn. It might have been to get drug money,
Well, it's interesting because and I said this on a previous show, is that whenever we sat down for like our initial meeting and you had this idea about life after life, we talked about all the paranormal stuff, the extraterrestrial, time traveling, and then we started talking about true crime. That's when we first talked about Delphi.
Yeah.
And then we went and started talking about the Manson thing, and that's when you brought these theories to me. We ended up sitting there for 90 minutes, 2 hours,
Yeah.
chatting about it, and I was just blown away. I was like,
Yeah, and there's
"Holy
so
moly."
many, and they're, some of them are ridiculous, I think.
Like any case.
Hey, I got to say a shout out to a special guy here, Mike Catcher. He has, hey, Mike, I didn't know you were Mike's Time Machine. That's cool. Mike knows, he has a YouTube channel dedicated to the Manson.
What's it called? You told me.
I think Mike, is it True Crime and Moonshine? Is that your YouTube
You said
channel?
you really liked it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I came in a couple times and watched their show. They
I'm definitely going to subscribe.
Yeah, I told Mike, I said I may need help on some of these new
So
theories.
does he just do the Manson case, or?
Yeah, I think, Mike, that's all you guys do, I think, is just the Manson stuff, right?
Good.
Yeah. So, anyway, Mike, you can help me out on some of the chaos theory. Is just I got 50 pages into it and couldn't read anymore. It's just out there. So, okay, so for the people who are not familiar with the Manson murders, this happened August 8th, 1969. I wrote this because I am tired, and I'm just going to read this out. So, on August 8th, 1969, 5 people were brutally murdered in Beverly Hills and Benedict Canyon. The address was 10,050 Cielo Drive. Actress Sharon Tate, married to famous movie director Roman Polanski and movie maker. Do you know who Roman Polanski is?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. See, some people in the chat may not even know who that is, because there's a whole story of him. He went out of the country because he got charged with raping a 13-year-old girl, and he's never came back to the country because of that. But anyway, let's see, where was I? So the victims there was Jay Sebring, Wojciech Frykowski, Abigail Folger, Sharon Tate, and Stephen Parent, who I told you had the worst luck of anybody in Los Angeles that could have been.
Right.
He was supposedly, and there's theories on him too. We can go ahead and talk about it now.
Okay.
So,
let's go.
but Stephen Parent was visiting William Garrison. Now, William Garrison was the caretaker of the Tate house, so he probably mowed the yard, kept checked the pool, kept all that stuff going on. Well, he lived in the guest house behind the house. So Stephen Parent had called him earlier that night and said, "Hey, I got a clock radio that he wanted to," or he may come out. I don't know. He may have just came unannounced. I'm not sure.
You said he was like techie, right?
Yeah, he was a techie electronic guy, and so he had his clock radio, Sony.
And how old was he?
Digimatic. Actually, I remember that. Sony Digimatic clock radio from 1969. Yeah.
How old was he?
He was 19 or 18.
Jeez,
18.
man. Okay.
Yeah, just a kid.
Right. Okay.
So he went there and tried to sell this radio to William Garrison, who said he wasn't interested in it. And so I guess they talked. He stayed for a few minutes and talked with him. They visited a little bit, and then as he left, he was leaving right as the killers were coming, and Tex Watson, by the way, is one of the killers there. And I might say Charles Watson. If I might say Charles, it doesn't mean Manson. I mean, I'll just call him Tex. But shot the kid like 4 times. So he was. I mean, just timing is everything. Had he left earlier, he may have got out with his life.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, so I'll keep reading. As the police entered the gate of actually the bodies were discovered the following morning around 9 a.m. by the Polanski's maid, Winifred Chapman. The police were called to the scene. As the police entered the gate of the CLO resident, they noticed a car that was parked close to the entrance inside the car, and was inside the car. I should never read these. I tell you that all the time.
I love it when you read.
I hate when I read. I know let you read that one time and you're like, I hate doing this.
Yeah.
You never want to do it again. But 18-year-old Stephen Parent slumped over on the right side of the vehicle. He'd been shot 4 times with a small caliber bullet As the police walked around the front of the house, they came across 2 more bodies on the front lawn. The body of Wojciech Frykowski. He had been shot 2 times, listen to this, stabbed 51 times.
Oh my God, dude.
And hit over the head with a blunt object, they said around 13 times. Lots of skull fractures on this poor guy.
Golly.
On the other side of the lawn was Abigail Folger, and she was heiress to the Folger Coffee Company.
Wow, okay.
So lots of money there. She had been stabbed 28 times. The officers then walked to the front door, which was ajar, and noticed that the word pig was written in blood on the front door. To the left was the living room. They discovered 2 more bodies. A pregnant Sharon Tate had been stabbed 16 times. She had a rope around her neck, draped over a rafter, which the other end of the rope tied around the neck of Jay Sebring. Sebring had been shot once, stabbed 7 times, and kicked repeatedly in the head.
Jesus.
So, yeah, it was just
Brutal.
totally brutal. So I'm going to show... I did put some crime scene photos in here, but I blotted them out somewhat. You can still kind of see the body, but I covered the blood up. So let's go ahead and... So if you guys are... It's not bad. But anyway, there's the house. That's the 10,050 Cielo Drive house, which, by the way, they tore down in 1994. And this huge mansion is up there.
Right. Is that the one you showed me earlier?
Yeah, the guy that created the show...
Full House.
Full House, yeah. I think it's something Franklin. I can't remember his last name. So anyway, so this is the gate to the front of the house. And if you look over here, then you'll see that the telephone wires were cut. Tex Watson did that. And as you can see, they're right there in the front. And this car here is a 1965 Rambler. It was kind of parked in front of the gate, back like it is. And inside was the body of Stephen Parent.
Jeez, man.
And I blotted it out as much as I could.
Was he
so
shot through the window or like?
no, the window was down.
Okay, so he just walked up and
Yeah.
ambushed him?
He just ambushed him.
Okay.
And supposedly, he said, please don't. I promise I won't say anything.
Right, yeah.
Which makes another theory that some people believe he was the last victim killed.
Got it.
And that he was walking around the pathway and saw the murders happening.
Oh.
And Tex saw him, and so the kid ran for his life. And there is kind of some weird things where the fence was broken, and supposedly the matched the paint on the car.
As if he had ran into it.
As he was trying to get out of there quickly, backed up, hit the
got
fence,
it.
and then as he's going, Tex caught up with him. But again, that's all speculation.
Jeez, man.
And-
That kind of, honestly, I looked at that, it kind of reminded me of some of the Zodiac
Yeah.
scenes. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, 1969,
Yeah.
that's the second Zodiac murder happened. Okay, that's the front of the house. Police have been there. I think Jerry DeRosa's around there somewhere. He's the first officer. In fact, that was Jerry DeRosa you guys heard at the beginning. He was the first officer on scene. And coming to the front door, it says pig, and it's written in blood. And then inside in the living room was Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring. And like I said, these crime scene photos were, me and Garrett talked a lot about this, and we were toying with the idea of showing them, but then it's like, these are just too gruesome.
Right. They're absolutely terrible.
Yeah, they're absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to see them, you can look it up on Google. They're out there. I mean, even autopsy photos, it's horrible.
Right. I think we talked and said it's important because how heinous.
Well,
this
just to
crime-
see the
I don't think-
brutality of this crime
Like when you sent this one to me, I initially thought it was on carpet.
on carpet. Yeah, no, yeah. I remember you saying that. It's like,
It
no,
was
that's
just
the
like-
front
just like
yard. That's
blood
grass.
but there's blood.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
He was, he had the most damage. He had all the stab, they shot twice, stabbed 50-something times,
51 times. I mean,
hit
what
over the head
hell,
13 times.
dude?
But but reading Tex's book, he said that, he was a pretty strong guy.
Yeah.
And, they had tied him up and he got loose. I think Susan Atkins tied him up with a towel or something.
Yeah.
So, of course, he got out of that. And Susan was trying to control him, and he was just manhandling her.
Right, yeah.
And then Tex got to him. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And then across on the other side of the lawn was Abigail Folger, and brutally stabbed. Like I said, these are just horrible pictures. And we'll talk about Leno and them here in just a second. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and talk about Leno now.
Okay.
And then, so on the next night, August 10th, A middle-aged couple was murdered in the Los Feliz home of Los Angeles. The two victims were Lino Rosemary LaBianca. Lino was found in the living room of his home, 7 stab wounds from a bayonet. Can you imagine? 14 stab wounds from a carving fork that was left in his stomach, and the war was carved on his stomach as well. So they carved the word war. That picture is out there too.
Jeez,
Also, a knife was protruding from his neck. If it's not bad enough, let's yeah. Rosemary LaBianca was found in the bedroom, and like Lino, had been stabbed. On the refrigerator door was written Helter Skelter. Now, she misspelled this HEA.
Right.
LTER in blood. So also written was Deaf to Pigs and Rise. And we can go ahead and start going through those pictures. I didn't put any of them in there. That's the house. There's, they came back that night from a camping trip. They dropped their daughter off. And on another website, there's this whole argument about whether Lino parked the car in the garage, or not the garage, but in the driveway or out in the street.
Why?
I don't know why it's so important, but there's a certain YouTuber out there, and he thinks it was in the driveway, but there's actually a picture of the car parked alongside the street with a boat still attached to it.
Okay.
So,
man, the crazy thing is, look at that driveway.
Oh, I know.
In that front yard, look how long it is.
Yeah.
The amount of time leading, as you're walking up, and so I just think that's going to be important later.
Yeah.
About premeditation and stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, and even the drive there,
and just the fact that you could have turned around or jumped out or.
Right.
Crazy, dude.
So there's Deaf to Pigs that was written. I think that was in the living room, and Helter Skelter
spelled wrong.
Spelled wrong on the refrigerator. And then Rise. So anyway, how crazy is that?
It's insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
It's weird.
It's very strange. Just the murders themselves. I just this. It's fascinating. It's sad. It's culture. I mean, it's pop culture. I guess you could say
it is.
Because a lot of people ask, why is this case still interesting to people? It's been solved and everything. But it's like anything. I mean, even like JFK, that kind of thing. People keep digging, and trying to find other, different theories.
I think that one of the reasons why I was drawn to it too is just the female characters in this, the killers.
Yeah.
How the video you showed me earlier of them singing and walking arm in arm.
It's just creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely creepy, and just the kind of mind control that they were under. They were completely just going with this. So I think that kind of has this craziness to it, and then obviously Charlie himself is a maniac.
Yeah. And Mike, Pat Krimwinkle wrote all the stuff there, so Mike can help out answer some questions here while he's here.
Okay, cool, perfect.
But he's saying it was the boat that people debate about the most.
Why though?
I don't know. Maybe if Mike, you can say I don't know why that's so important. Whether he parked in the driveway or he parked on the side of the street, what the hell does it matter?
Well, I think Patrick just said you don't think that Manson went back afterwards and wrote it.
No, and we'll talk. There's so many things on this case. God, we could probably do 2 shows. There's talk that Manson went back to the Cielo Drive house, but I don't believe that for a minute.
Okay,
he's on probation. He's not stupid. I mean, he's
reckless.
He's reckless, yeah. But he wouldn't, if you just people killed a bunch of people and then they came back to Spawn Ranch,
right?
And then, at this point, you don't know, the cops could already be there. So if Manson shows up, the police are there. He's walking up the hill. He's going to get pulled over, or he's going to get stopped and questioned, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So that whole thing about Manson going back, and that's another thing that was written in his own words. I think it was Newell Emmons, who was a friend of Manson's, that wrote that. And Charlie had said that he went back there, but there's interviews with Charlie saying, "No, I did not go back."
Right. Well, what are some of the reasons people believe that?
They heard voices around, like arguing around 4 a.m.
Who? Like neighbors?
Neighbors.
Okay.
For some reason, Jay Sebring's blood is on the porch, and Sharon Tate's is on the front as well. But however, they were killed inside the house, so people are wondering, well, how did that blood?
Well, do you think it's just trace?
No,
these people had
here's
to be
what
covered
I
in,
here's
these people had to be covered in blood. You stabbed somebody 51 times.
yeah. Here's what I honestly think. Because it's a big pool of blood.
Yeah, it's a lot of victims.
Yeah,
too.
but I just don't. I think LAPD. I don't think they handle. I mean, people were walking in and out of that house. It was a crime scene was pretty contaminated. I mean, it's possible that blood was mislabeled. It's possible. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because I find it just hard to believe that there's another God. We just a rabbit hole.
Go.
There's other people that think that Jay had ran outside,
They caught him and brought him back.
caught him, and moved him back inside, and then that's where Manson comes in, where they said Manson wanted to take the bodies, and it was horrible. Some of the things he wanted to do is what they said, but
Right.
and so that being the reason that there's blood, Jay Sebring's blood, well, Manson must have came back and moved the bodies outside and then decided, okay, no, let's move them back inside. But you got to think of the risk you'd be taking.
Yeah.
You're at a crime scene.
Yeah.
This is right there is a huge risk.
Yeah.
And then, if you move the bodies and get the hell out of there, let's put them back in. And why?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, though, I mean, they were A, reckless, and B, probably under the influence.
Yeah, but I don't think Manson's stupid enough to return to a crime scene that's a murder crime scene at that.
Right.
Because he just, he's been out of prison for a little bit and he's on probation. He would say stuff like, well, man, I don't want to go back to, you just put me back in jail is what he told Tex when he killed him. I don't know. I mean, Mike, what do you think about that? I just don't think that he went back. And I agree. Mike says, but I know Sharon wasn't killed on that porch. I don't think so either. I think that it was just a bunch of, I don't like to say incompetence, but, that stuff happens where blood gets mislabeled,
What was the amount of blood that was on the porch? Do you know? Have you seen it?
Yeah. There's pictures out there. In fact, I was going to put that in a slideshow, but I thought, it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And how the blood's patterned, like someone on one side actually had photoshopped, they took Jay's body where he was kind of in a fetal position somewhat and placed him on that blood, and it kind of matched up a little bit because Jay was a little guy. He was like 5'6", something like that. He was small. But again, I think that's probably Wojtek Frykowski's blood that just got mislabeled.
Okay.
I definitely don't think Sharon was killed out on the front porch. So this thing just gets rolling and
keep rolling
and rabbit hole stuff.
Yeah.
Let me read this other part here. So in December 1969, Susan Atkins, while in jail, told 2 other inmates that she had, she and some others were responsible for the Tate LaBianca murders. The 2 other inmates went on to report this to the authorities, and this began the arrest of Manson and the other responsible parties. At the Tate killings were Charles Tex Watson, Linda Kasabian, Patricia Kernwinkle, and Susan Atkins. On a night, Charles Manson drove to the LaBianca home with Leslie Van Houten, Tex Watson, Linda Kasabian, Steve Clem Grogan, Susan Atkins. Manson entered the house from an unlocked door. Now we're talking about the LaBiancas. Okay, he was at the scene of the crime. He tied up Lino and Rosemary LaBianca and assured them that they would be okay and that he was just there to rob them. Manson then walked back to the car and told Tex there was a couple tied up in the home. He said, do not let them know you're going to kill them. Don't let there be any panic like the night before. He asked Leslie Van Houten and Patricia Krenwinkel to go with Tex and do what Tex tells you to do. Manson then left with Susan, Clem, and Linda, which, again, Manson's not stupid. He's at, I'm leaving,
So they went in and followed orders.
You could say that, but there'd be a lot of people that would disagree with you because there's a lot of people out there that said that Manson didn't tell anybody to kill, that he didn't order anybody to kill anybody.
Right.
Is what he says.
Okay, but if you have somebody tied up in a house and then you go out and tell some people that killed like 10 people the night before, go in there, don't let them be crazy like the night before.
Yeah.
It's essentially saying, go kill them, right?
Right. So let's go ahead and get into the theories a little bit.
Absolutely.
So the Helter Skelter theory, basically, this is a theory where at Spawn Ranch, which that's where they hung out. It was George Spawn. It used to be an old movie ranch that they shot westerns at. I think Long Rangers, some early Gunsmoke maybe, and just old westerns, right?
Okay. Yep.
So they made this deal with George Spawn. They said, well, we'll help you out on the ranch if you let us live here. And there was a girl named Squeaky Frommy. That's her actually, Frommy.
Yep.
Lynette Frommy, who Manson said, okay, you take care of George. And like she would cook for him, do everything for him.
Yep.
Rumors of she slept with him. I don't know. This guy was like a very, very old guy.
Right.
But Squeaky actually here lately said that she did not sleep with him.
Okay.
But I don't think anybody believes that at all.
Yeah.
So.
Are you saying that Squeaky lost some credibility?
Yeah. Well, especially when she tried to kill the president. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But
and that's what she's worried about is people thinking she slept with this guy.
Yeah. I know, right?
Okay,
it's like, but she's totally. I mean, even though Manson's passed away, she's totally still thinks Manson's the cat pajamas man.
Bizarre.
It is. And so the Helter Skelter theory, anyway. So basically, they would all get high, sit around. Charlie would kind of do his little preaching and talking and philosophy, and he believed that there was going to be a race war eventually, and that the blacks would rise up against the whites, and that only the family would be the survivors of this war. In other words, he said there's a hole out in the desert called the bottomless pit, which in the Bible refers to as hell.
Right.
He would take his family, they would get into the bottomless pit during all this mayhem and killing, and when it was all over with, the black people would be in power. And he said, but they're too, and I don't even want to say this, but he said they're too stupid to run the world, and they're going to have me to do it. So that's what was claimed. Now, he said, he kept preaching about this getting ready to happen. Well, it wasn't happening fast enough for him, right?
Okay.
So there was one night when he said, now's the time for Helter Skelter. Now, whether he said that or not, I don't know. But that's what the defendant said.
Okay.
So he decided one night, that's when he told Tex to get a change of clothing, get the girls, everybody get nice. Now we're talking about premeditation,
Absolutely.
murder.
Yeah.
I want you to go up to the old Terry Melcher house. Tex supposedly had been there before. Manson had been there a couple times, but I think he was never invited in the house. Although Mark Lindsay from Paul Revere and the Raiders said that he had visited the house several times, and he said he saw Manson a couple of times inside the home. He said he went into the kitchen one time, and he was trying to open the refrigerator door, and Manson was sitting in front of it and wouldn't let him open the door. And he said, hey, would you move, please? And
What a
then
maniac.
he came back out, and he said, hey, who's that little hippie dude? I said, he wouldn't even let me in the fridge. And don't worry about him. That's just Charlie. That's what Mark Lindsay says. So, I mean, whether...
Sounds like Charlie.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like Charlie.
And it also sounds like the way people would react. Oh, that's just Charlie.
Yeah. Oh, that's just Charlie.
Crazy,
yeah, that's
crazy
kind of
Charlie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
So they get the knives, they get the change of clothes.
right, and he tells Tex to go up and kill everybody inside the house, and he said also to go ahead and go through Los Angeles and kill as many people as you can. So
why didn't they continue that night?
okay, well, again, you got to think if this is what Manson said.
Yeah.
Tex Watson in his book said he was exhausted.
I bet.
And just because it was just so shocking. I think it was shocking to
sure.
all of them, although they didn't,
Well, did he admit to like taking crank before he went in?
Yeah, him and Susan had a baby. They had this little baby jar full of meth, and they would just stick their finger in there and
Jesus.
take a big snort. So they were cranked up when they got there, which could explain some of the violent.
Definitely, yeah.
How the violence got out bad.
It could explain why somebody else's blood was found on the porch as well.
What's that?
Just being indecisive. I said that could, pointing back to how the blood, because I know that a lot of people were talking about that, how the blood was found on the porch.
Yeah.
Right? That could point to that a little bit. Just being indecisive, freaking out,
Yeah.
jittery.
Yeah. So anyway, so they get there, which I kind of already talked about the murder already. So this is the part where if I'm in the car, that someone should have said, "Hey, what the hell are we doing?"
Right. Yeah.
So there was something, I will say, Bugliosi said, he always said, look, there, when parole hearings would come up, he said, absolutely not. They shouldn't get out. He said, because there's something in them
Right.
that's not in you and me that could go through with actually murdering somebody. And
The way that
especially,
they've done it.
and not
Yeah.
only the way they did it, but you got someone begging for your life
Right.
or begging for their lives, and they still bring that knife down and just continually.
You're talking 51 stab wounds, 13 strikes to the head with a tire iron. I mean,
Yeah,
geez,
and-
dude, that's
yeah, I mean,
next level.
And even with the drugs, I mean, I just that's killing's got to be in you or something,
Right,
to
yeah,
do something
definitely.
like that. But and then to brag about it after the fact,
Right.
And Susan Atkins said in interviews, I think it was a 1974 interview, she goes, "I absolutely had no feeling for any of those people.
Right.
Absolutely felt nothing."
I mean, it goes to the point, because we had the cult episode recently.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I was begging the question then, is this essentially, was the family a cult? I mean, their way of thinking,
Yeah.
where she didn't even see.
Well, if you go by the
Checklist.
narrative, the narrative of Bugliosi,
Okay.
then yes, absolutely was a cult. If Charlie was out there and was actually running the show, like this, Patricia Krenwinkel in an interview said, nothing was done on that ranch, absolutely nothing, unless Charlie approved of it.
Wow. Okay. He's a tyrant.
Yeah. So so if that's the case and that's true, then yes, it was definitely. We go through the checklist.
Yeah.
He meets them all.
He does.
Very much so, and it's interesting too how we talked about most cults end up in something violent happening.
Yeah.
Every
David
time.
Koresh.
Yeah, David Koresh, Heaven's Gate.
Yep.
And if Manson was actually the one who ordered these murders in the Manson family.
Well, I mean, you make it makes you think, like, what if he would have veered off and told them that they had to kill themselves in order to reach the bottomless pit, or you know what I'm saying? They probably would have been in that. They probably would have done it.
And these people, well, there was times when I can't remember which family member it was, but Charlie was talking about this bottomless pit. There were actually a couple of, and I think this was when they were at Barker Ranch, is because they moved from Spawn. I think it was because they were getting busted for auto theft, which Charlie, when all these cops raided, I think it was August 16th. This is a week after the murders.
Okay.
All these cops come in Spawn Ranch, and he's thinking, "Oh shit,
They
they got us."
Yeah.
And he kind of chuckled when he said, "What are you here for, man?"
Yeah.
He said, "Auto theft." And so they said Manson kind of chuckled, like they had no idea.
Yeah.
So that the heat was coming on. So,
Right.
and we'll get to that too with the Gary Hinman murder. But anyway, so they moved to Barker Ranch, and there was actually girls going out around the desert looking for this bottomless pit.
Oh man, they thought it was imminent.
They thought it was imminent, and just the control. If like again, this is all speculation, but like he was talking about, he looked at Susan Atkins one time. He said, "Go get me a coconut from some country or something." And they said Susan Atkins stood up and started to walk out the door. And it's like,
Well, and that's another thing, like a dictator or a tyrant. I'm watching this thing about the tyrant playbook, how to become a tyrant.
why are you reading that?
Well, no. I'm watching a show about it. It just was interesting. And
Life
we were
after life will start being a cult.
Yeah. Well, no, it was interesting, honestly, because we were doing this case and we've done stuff like that. But that is a way for a tyrant to keep control over the mass of people they have.
Yeah.
Is to point somebody out, make them do something outlandish, and for everybody to witness it and be like, "Holy shit, she's literally going to go try to find that coconut for this guy."
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so he's using the playbook.
Yeah, he read a lot of books in prison about mind control, that kind of thing. God, there's one famous book he read. It was really popular at the time, but I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, so like Mike said, the girls in they didn't think they were in a cult, you
Right.
know? And I think most people don't.
Oh, yeah.
Because they,
that.
you know,
Right,
and no
right.
one wants to admit that anybody has a control over them.
Yeah. And,
Right?
Right. And when you get to the point where you have no feelings for somebody while you're stabbing them,
Mm-hmm.
then at that point you're too far gone. No one's going to like pull you out. And have you ever like heard from family members of the killers? Like from the girls that were involved in the Manson murders? Like
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Have I heard?
No, I mean, have family members like spoken out about the fact, like, were they cut off from their families? Did their families have any idea they were with Charlie Manson?
According to Krenwinkel, they were not allowed to like call their parents. There was 2 phones at the ranch, and I don't think they were allowed to use them unless it was for something else. Again, a speculation. I don't know. That's true.
By no means am I trying to say that like they get a pass because they fell victim to becoming brainwashed and murdering people.
Yeah, and I was looking in the chat room. It says Charlie and Jim Jones were both born in Indiana. I think Charlie was born in Kentucky, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but I think he was born. I know he was raised in Kentucky.
Well, and I think Patrick
And not
brings
Indiana.
up, I think Patrick brings up a great point.
But
He
Indiana has
says
Notre Dame.
they have Notre Dame, so therefore they get a pass.
Okay, Ohio. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. But he did grow up in Kentucky, I believe. Southern boy, but you can kind of tell when he talks.
Yeah.
you know, he has that kind of a Southern sound to him. But anyway, so God, we're just going all over the place.
That's okay. That's okay.
But anyway, so Manson preached this Helter Skelter. You know, it was going to be a big war. He was going to be ruling it. We need to get this thing started. So this is Boyosi's take on it.
Right.
So he did the crimes. You know, they killed everybody at Cielo, and then they went to Waverly in Los Angeles, Los Feliz, which is a part of Los Angeles,
Okay.
and killed the La Biancas, thinking that this was going to start get it started, get it sparked.
Right, yeah.
And they were going to, you know, like Rosemary LaBianca's wallet, when they, you know, Manson took that with him when they left and had Linda Kasabian to put it in a bathroom in this neighborhood that he thought was, you know, actually a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so if the police found it, then they would think, oh, a black person must have done this.
Right.
So again, trying to blame the black people for this.
Right.
But anyway, that, you
so
know,
like out of his mind.
yeah, and Linda ended up putting it inside the tank, so of course no
Yeah.
one found it.
Well, it's crazy to think about, like, you know, we've talked about this in past shows, but like he's definitely in his own world.
Oh yeah.
Like he's thinking he's just going to spark a worldwide race war where he's the only one that survives in a bottomless pit. Do you think that was really the objective?
I don't. Well, that's a good question. Do I think Manson actually thought that, or was he manipulating people to see how
Right.
far they would go
Yeah.
for him?
Yeah.
You know, he's not stupid. I mean, I hate saying that because he
I
did
get it.
some horrible things. But do I really think Manson thought that he was going to take his family? I can't say no.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't either. I don't think that he really would think that.
Right.
Because it's so insane.
Yeah, it is.
Very
yeah.
and
Not saying he's not insane, but also saying that, like, you've heard him. I mean, you know way more about this than I do. But just like the research I've done and the interviews I've heard him in, you know, he's well spoken. He's articulate when he wants to be. He plays friggin' mind games constantly. Puts a damn swastika on his forehead.
yeah,
Like he's an attention seeker, right? I mean, obviously.
right.
And so, I don't believe that he really truly.
He plays the personality that you project on him, and he's always said that. So if you like you see, you know, you watch all these interviews, say Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo was very aggressive with him,
Right.
So therefore he was the crazy killing, you know, the crazy
yeah.
Manson.
Yeah.
If the most normal I've ever seen him, I think, was when Ronald Reagan's son interviewed him, and he didn't treat Manson crazy. He asked questions, and then you saw more of a more sane Manson giving answers back.
What about was it Barbara Walters or?
Diane Sawyer talked to him.
But didn't you say that like afterwards he like gave her a hug or something?
Yeah, I mean there was somewhere on YouTube there. You know, I'd watched that when it actually came out. I think it was like 1994. when he talked to, or not Linda, but Susan, Pat, and Leslie.
Okay.
And they cut out a whole, and she talked to Manson.
Right.
But they left out a whole bunch of stuff. And the stuff they left out, it's actually on YouTube. So you can kind of see how they edited it to make it Manson look a little more crazy.
Right.
I mean, at the end, because Diane Sawyer's just giving him that go to hell look through the whole thing. But then it's like, hey, can I get a picture with you? You know, so they're, she's taking a picture of Manson.
Yeah.
It's like this guy's a celebrity somewhat.
Well, he is.
But,
That's
for
the wild thing.
Diane Sawyer, she can't go on acting like she's a Manson sympathizer.
Right. No, for sure.
They'd fire her.
Well, and that goes to the point, though, that, Diane Sawyer's wanting a picture with this guy afterwards.
Yeah, it was very strange to me because they showed mainly the crazy Manson and they left out the more saner stuff. They didn't put it in, and it's TV, man. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
And they want Manson to be perceived as a
narrative.
Crazy lunatic,
Right?
Yeah,
Which he was.
Which he was.
Yeah.
He was crazy. So anyway, this was Vince Bugliosi's whole theory. Now, why I think he came up with that is they were going to have a hard time charging Manson with anything. He wasn't at he wasn't at the Tate house. He was at the La Biancas, but he didn't kill anybody.
Tied him up.
He tied him up.
And then they died.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I get it. Yeah,
but he says, hey, I didn't tell anybody to do anything. So in a way, how can you convict him when he actually didn't murder anybody? But they have a law in California called conspiracy to commit murder. And that's the only way they could to get him for all these killings. And the prosecution team were like, how are we going to get this guy off the streets?
Right.
He's dangerous.
Yeah.
But we have absolutely no evidence against physical evidence that he was even there.
Right. Yeah.
Now you got the testimony of the girls and stuff saying that he went into the La Bianca house, but tying someone up, okay, you get breaking and entering, maybe an assault charge, maybe, but you're not going to get a first-degree murder charge.
No,
which he knew what he was doing if that was the case. So it's so anyway, Vince, they decided, okay, we got to make it look like he almost hypnotized these people. He has such a strong power on this group that they would not have killed unless Manson was, had told them to.
Well, and they're walking in hand, singing songs, shaving their head.
They did.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
He had that play.
The stupid thing about Manson is he did himself no favors in that courtroom. He acted like an idiot through it. He was having the girls stand up and just yell stuff out in the court.
Right, yeah.
He would say crazy things. He actually lunged at one of the judges with a pencil.
Okay.
Eventually,
eventually
they had to take him out of the courtroom.
Right.
And he had to stay in a cell during some of the trial. But so anyway, so Vince and them, Stephen Kay was his assistant. He was the other prosecutor. And so they said, okay, we're going to use this Helter Skelter theory. And the other prosecutor was like, you're nuts, Vince. What jury's going to buy this? That they actually, he had so much power over these people? Look at him. He's 5'2". He weighs probably 90 pounds.
Right, yeah.
Not an attractive guy. What?
Right, yeah.
But Vince said, trust me, and
they did.
They did, and they were all convicted on first-degree murder.
He definitely took what he had and put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
I mean, the theory is pretty remarkable, really.
It is.
But he's crazy enough for you to believe it.
Right.
Him and his family were insane.
Yeah.
You checking?
Yeah, I'm just checking. Beep, beep, beep. Okay, I'm good.
You good?
I'm good.
Dude,
Okay.
thank God.
I know. Dropped my blood sugar during this show. Anyway, so
this is what you grew up. This was the word.
Yeah, this was the gospel. That's all we had. In the 70s, there was no other book on it.
You didn't have the internet.
Did not have the internet. So, I'm sure there were other people probably even in the 70s, early 80s started kind of looking at stuff, getting court records, that kind of thing to see and to do their own research on it. But yeah, that was his book, Helter Skelter, was gospel as far as, and I think even most people who, now think that Manson wasn't really responsible, that this was a drug thing.
Right.
Even back then, I mean, I've heard them say, yeah, thought the same thing. That's all we had to go on.
Right.
And
So do you believe it now? I know we're going to get to that, but can you say definitively?
At this point in the show, I don't know. I'm planning on telling you what I think at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So
I think it's plausible. The thing that backs up Vince's, I talked Vince like I know him personally.
I thought you talked to him earlier.
Yeah, no, he died.
Yeah,
It'd be
okay.
kind of hard.
No, we know people.
But yeah, that's true. Paranormal.
Yeah.
We can contact him. Yeah, I'm gonna wait and at the end, but yeah, I think it's totally plausible.
Well,
the reason being because to this day we still have the girls saying Charlie told us to get a change of clothes, do what Tex says.
Yes.
Tex said Charlie in his book. Charlie told us to go to CLO, kill everybody in the house.
Right.
So
Let me reframe the question
please,
here. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So say that this is Bugliosi.
Yeah, the G is
baloney.
the
This
G
is
is
Vince's.
to everybody out there who says Bugalosi, the G is silent. It's Bugliosi.
Okay, so to Bugliosi, say that he did just bring all these different pieces together and create this in order to put Manson and the girls away forever. Do you think if that is the case, do you think he was right to do that?
No, I don't. I think everybody, here's the deal. We're in the United States. Everybody should get a fair trial.
Right, yeah.
And like you said before, checks and balances.
Yep,
if you can't prove Manson killed anybody, then you can't convict him.
Right.
So we have to have justice. I mean, again,
do you see why I'm asking?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's a lot of people who said, and I was one of those too. Is like, I don't care what Bugliosi had to do to keep this guy behind bars.
But if the shoe's on the other foot.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I get it. He's definitely a dangerous person. He was very abusive to people.
Right.
We don't know that there's no proof that he actually murdered anybody, although there's talk that he did try to kill Bernard Crowe. Lots of papa.
Yep. That's
and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, I don't know, man.
Do you think that he really believed? Did he really believe Helter Skelter?
Manson?
Bugliosi?
Bugliosi?
Bugliosi.
No. In fact, there's a quote, and it came from Tom O'Neill. Tom O'Neill will talk a little bit about the chaos, but again, I don't know enough about the chaos to really discuss it in detail.
That's fine.
I'll touch on it because I read about 50 pages and I stopped reading it.
Right, yeah.
But Bugliosi was asked, Charlie, not Charlie, Vince, do you think that Manson believed all this? And he goes, I don't. He goes, I think the girls did. He goes, but I don't think Manson did.
Got it.
Right? So, but Vince.
Yeah, but even if the girls believed Helter Skelter, and if Charlie's the one that's preaching Helter Skelter, then, I mean, not a bad, what I'm saying? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. No, you're exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But so anyway, they were convicted on that. The jury bought it. That whole prosecution team, even through that trial, they were still scared to death. But now they had, their star witness was Linda Kasabian. Excuse me. She was one of the girls that was there at the Tate murders.
Right.
They gave her immunity for her testimony against the family and to tell what happened, and which I learned something about that, which even kind of interests me. And we might as well go ahead and talk about
go
it.
for it.
Her attorney, Susan Atkins was the one that was going to be the star witness, right? And she was going to be the one that was going to testify against the family for full immunity.
Right.
Now, this is a psycho bitch, man.
Right, yeah.
It's like, and even Bugliosi and Stephen K are like, we can't give this girl immunity.
Right,
We just can't. But they got lucky. She recanted everything she said and said, she's not going to testify. So then they went to Linda Kasabian. And she was going to be convicted for, 5 counts of first degree murder.
Yeah.
And they talked to her about, hey, if you testify for the prosecution against Manson and the family, you get full immunity. You're going home.
Right.
And so she did. Now, her testimony was damning I think, and that's probably her testimony was what sealed the deal for Boyosi's case.
Definitely, yeah.
And then even the jurors said that. It said when Linda got on there and she started talking, it's like, okay, this guy is actually responsible for this,
Right.
kind of thing. Now, it came out that Linda Kasabian's attorney, which he said I can't talk about what she told me,
Right.
because it's
Attorney-client privilege.
yeah, exactly. He said, but there was some more involvement than what she's saying, and
On her part.
yeah, but not that she killed anybody,
Right.
but maybe more into the family of of the murder thing
Got you. Okay.
than we know. But the attorney, Vince Boyosi, told her attorney, okay, I'm going to write up a testimony for her, okay, and I want her to read it verbatim,
Okay.
or to learn it, and that's what she's going to tell the jury.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So he took the transcript, he handed it to Linda, and he said, Linda, if you read this exactly like what it says, you're going home. And keep your mouth shut on everything else.
And
she did. And she got full immunity, still alive today. So Vince, that's the thing.
Illegal, right?
It's very illegal.
Like,
yes.
you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. But he did.
Yeah.
And
How often do you think
but
that happens?
I think it happens a lot. Especially if
life
you
in
if you
prison
got
is a pretty good little ace you can hold on to.
the gas chambers even more. She had been looking at the gas chamber,
Right.
and that's frightening to most people.
Right.
So yeah. So I think that goes on all the time. I'm sure if they get a murder similar to that or something, they get one guy. Hey, if you don't want to go to the gas chamber, right? So even if you lie,
Yeah.
we get what we want. We get this person in
Right.
jail, and you go home.
Well, I mean, it goes to like what we were talking about during our pool meeting about how dumb some of these people were. Like, who was it that was talking in prison bragging about the tape murders?
Yeah, Susan Atkins.
Like, all those prisoners are wanting out of that prison, dude. And she's sitting there telling them all.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, let me go tell these prosecutors.
Yeah.
Get some reduced sentence.
Right,
That's
right.
crazy, man.
So, yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But anyway, so that's pretty much. Do you got any more questions on Helter Skelter theory?
No, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it is. But that's the one thing that kind of made me wonder if, something that I'd believed up until actually a couple of years ago,
Right.
That Boyosi was telling the truth. But then when I hear Kasabian's attorney saying
Right, yeah.
that Vince wrote out the whole testimony
Definitely.
and said, read this verbatim or learn it verbatim,
Right.
and you'll go home, then I started thinking, wow. Because she was the one that really kind of talked about Manson saying, now is the time for Helter Skelter.
Right.
You know,
Just putting that
and-
nail in that coffin of that Helter Skelter theory.
Right. And I don't remember any, I've watched about every interview with the other girls who were involved.
Right.
And I don't remember them ever saying that, Manson just said, okay, now's the time for Helter Skelter. Now he did talk about that.
Yeah.
He preached it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But saying,
But was it
now,
actually,
let's go.
Yeah. But now let's start it, because
Yeah.
it started out as they weren't going to kill anybody. They were just going to let this wait and happen.
Right.
And we were, we had Watts, we had the whole riot thing
Yeah,
going on,
yeah.
the Black
It
Panthers.
was a tumultuous time.
It was a very tumultuous time, and so
Civil rights movement happening, yeah.
So he said, "We'll just let it happen. We'll go to the desert."
Yeah.
But then that's when Kasabian said, "Well, that's when he said, they're taking too long. We got to get this thing
Right.
started." So But anyway, so that's basically the Helter Skelter theory, and I'll tell you if I believe that later.
Okay, good.
All right. So the other thing is copycat murders
Okay.
to get Bobby Beausoleil out of jail. Now, we really hadn't touched on it much, but
Okay, so is Bobby Beausoleil, so when the cops raid the ranch and he's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're here for auto theft, is that when they got Bobby?
no. They arrested Bobby.
Sleeping. Okay, got you.
Yeah, they found him sleeping in Gary Hammond's car.
Okay, yeah, so go down that path
On the
again, 'cause
highway.
This part
Okay.
is bizarre.
So the Straight Satans was basically Manson, from what I understand, he had them out there kind of just protect the family or something. Think anything bad went down, Bobby kind of fancied himself a biker, or wanted to,
Right.
and so he thought the biker thing was really cool. So one of the straight Satans I believe it was mescaline. I think they were looking for, and Bobby's like, "Oh, I'll get you mescaline." You know, he wanted to prove himself to them.
I can get you that.
I can get you mescaline, no problem.
Yeah.
So Gary Hinman, who was he was a music teacher. He lived in Topanga Canyon. He was a drug dealer, and he made mescaline, and so he sold Bobby Bobby got the money from the straight Satans. He paid for it, got the mescaline, gave it to the straight Satans. Well, then they come back, I don't know if it was the next day or the day later, and they said, hey, this mescaline's bad. Everybody got sick. And which
we talked about.
Mescaline makes you sick.
Right, yeah.
So.
Made us see things.
Yeah. Well, no, it was just, they were, I guess, throwing up and whatnot.
Right.
But so anyway, so Bobby's, they said, you get my money back or you're going to pay for this, So Bobby's freaking out. What am I going to do? I got to get this money back to these guys. And so he went to Gary Hinman's house. Let me take a drink.
Yep. Brought to you by Powerade.
Brought to you by Powerade. But he went to Gary Hinman's house and said, Gary, that mescaline was bad, man. I need that money back.
Right.
And or these guys are going to kill me, And Gary's like, that mescaline wasn't bad, and I don't have your money.
Perfect storm.
Right. So he doesn't know what to do. He calls Manson.
Good decision.
Ask Manson for his
He's like,
advice.
hang on, let me call my confidant, Charlie Manson. Okay.
So he calls Charlie. He's like, hey, man. He goes, Gary won't give me this money. I don't know what to do. And so Manson shows up. I think it was
worst case scenario for Hinman.
Yeah, I think it was him and Bruce Davis, I believe. He was another wacko. And Manson had this big sword with him. Like a
like a ninja sword.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, okay.
No, it was actually like a Civil War sword, actually.
Okay.
So
was it really big, or was it just because Charlie was tiny?
It probably was bigger than Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's probably a Barbie sword.
Yeah, it's probably a sword about this big.
Yeah.
No. But so he came in, he said, he's trying to help a brother out. That's what he called it, help Bobby out. So he's like, Gary, you're going to pay him, man.
Yeah.
And Gary's like, no, I can't. I can't. I don't have the money for one. And, the mescaline wasn't bad. And here's my thing on that is I don't think the mescaline was bad. I think they probably never took it. And mescaline will make you throw up and it'll make you sick. It's like heroin. They say good heroin, you always vomit if it's good heroin.
Yeah. They wanted their cake and they wanted to eat it too.
Yeah, and that's what Bobby to this day thinks, that they just wanted to get the money and the drugs.
Right,
and,
yeah.
It's a biker gang. You can't trust.
Sounds kind of like something the straight Satans would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hence the name.
Yeah.
But so Manson went over there and he cut his ear off. He took the sword and he just went, whew.
Normal person.
Right. Yeah.
God, dude.
And so him and, Bruce.
Slices the dude's ear off.
Yeah. And says,
does what with it?
And nothing. He just actually, Susan Atkins, I think it was, they tried to sew his ear back on with dental floss.
Sorry, dude. My bad. Charlie kind of lost it.
Yeah,
Let's sew this back on.
They were there 2 days with this guy. Susan Atkins was Bobby and him got in a fight. Actually there was a gun involved. It was Gary's gun, and Gary almost got the take on him. And Bobby got the gun away from him. There's a struggle. He does cut him across the face, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So Manson leaves. And Bobby goes out the door. He goes, Charlie, what do I do? And he goes, you know what to do.
I did my job. I cut his ear off with a sword.
Yeah, he goes, you know what to do. So,
which again is signaling.
It's, yeah.
But dog whistle there.
In Manson's head, when it comes down to it, he said, hey, man, I didn't say go kill him.
Yeah, yeah.
I just said, you know what you need to do.
That's just my language.
That's his language. So Bobby was like, I didn't want to go, he said, I knew he would tell the police, so he said I stabbed him to death and killed him. All right. So what does Bobby do? He steals the car with the knife inside the car.
Yeah.
And, so of course when the police show up, Hinman's car is missing. So
right. Bolo
alert on the car. And Bobby's in it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So they find him. He had pulled over the side of the road, took a nap.
Yeah.
And they arrested him. and
Took a nap.
the knife was in the car. So now word gets back to Manson at Spawn that Bobby's in prison.
Shit.
Yeah, Manson's going, oh crap.
Yep.
So he sends, I think, Linda Kasabian down to the jail or whatever and said, tell him, keep your mouth shut.
Sit tight.
We're going to get you out.
And you believe Charlie if you're, what is his name, Bobby, or what's the guy's name that fell asleep in the car?
Bobby Bosley.
Bobby believes Charlie.
Yeah.
A, Charlie just cut this dude's ear off for me.
Right.
And B, it's Charlie. We're going to follow him and do these things.
So anyway, Manson's like, okay, we're going to get it.
We have to get this.
We got to get him released quickly.
Right.
Right. But, at the same time, it's like, okay, he's got the knife in the car.
Right.
Yeah, you're kind of doomed.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Susan Atkins ends up getting picked up for it because I guess Bobby did start talking. But anyway, so they said the girls came up with a plan, like, let's do some copycat murders because they were trying to blame it on the Black Panthers.
Right.
Right? Because that's another story.
We're
going to be here forever.
No, but that's the theory that I'm really intrigued to get to. So, okay, continue. They wanted to blame it on the Black Panthers.
Right.
And there's reasoning behind that.
Yeah.
And so they decided to do the cap.
Right, because, and I'll go ahead and go over this real quick. So Tex Watson before this had, he was known to just steal drugs from people, burn them.
He was a
he was dumb. There was a guy named Bernard Crow, went by lots of papa, drug dealer. So Tex and his
Black Panther, right? Or no? Was he a Black
No,
Panther?
he I don't know if he ever said he was. Manson thought he was, and that's what scared Manson to death about that.
Okay.
So anyway, Tex goes to this guy and says, "Hey, I can get drugs for you," and the guy gives him like $2,500. And so Tex and his girlfriend's getting ready to leave, and he's like, "No, the girl stays." He goes, "I'm not just going to give you $2,500. Walk out of here with it." So Tex leaves the girl.
What an asshole!
What a great boyfriend, huh?
Yeah.
So
God.
So anyway, so Tex takes the money, and so the next day, Bernard Crow calls Spawn Ranch, and he asks, "I want to talk to Charles." Okay, well, it's Charles Watson, but one of the girls thought it was Charlie Manson.
Okay.
So Charlie gets on the phone, and the guy goes, "Hey, I want my damn money back." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You ripped me off," and he goes, "Yeah, you got the wrong guy." He goes, "This is, I'm Charlie Manson or whatever." And he said, "Well, regardless," he goes, "supposedly I'm in Black Panthers." He goes, "If I don't get my money back, I'm going to come down and wipe out everybody on that ranch."
Right.
So now Manson's like going, "Okay, crap."
Right.
So Tex comes to Charlie and says, "Yeah, I got myself in a predicament. He's got my girlfriend. He won't let my girlfriend go." And they go down. So Charlie goes with him.
Of course.
To meet him, and they're trying to talk this out. Guy gets angry. Charlie shoots him with his gun. Guy falls down, pretends he's dead. Charlie thought he killed him. So they leave. Well,
with
Bernard,
the girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now Charlie's scared to death of, I killed a Black Panther.
Right.
And if it gets back that it was Tex, then I'm going to be they're going to come down and kill all of us.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, so getting back to the him and things, so they thought, well, it'd be a good idea to put a paw print on the, in blood,
so like
and political piggy. Yeah.
Okay.
And anywho, so that's what they did, thinking that would put the pressure on the Black Panthers, and it would, it would take the heat off
get the guy out of
Manson.
jail.
But the problem is now Bobby's in jail. Susan gets arrested. But so anyway, so that's the theory about the copycat murder. So anyway, so that was like, well, Tex goes to the house, writes kind of things in blood to match the Gary Hammond murder. Same thing to LaBianca's, and that's how that happened.
And that would tie into Bugliosi's Helter Skelter theory a little bit, right? Okay. See, I lean towards that, though.
The Helter Skelter theory?
No. The one that you were just talking about with the copycat.
Yeah. So, Manson had, and I hate to say all this on his plate, but he
did.
He was worried.
Right,
and rightly so.
Right, definitely.
So anyway, so that's the copycat murder. So Tex went to the house, wrote all that stuff, and they thought, okay, well, the police will see this, and then they'll think, okay, well, Bobby couldn't have done this.
Right, yeah.
So we're going to release him. He'll be out, and everybody's good.
Yeah, direction of the investigation is going completely away from the ranch.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that's the copycat theory. Then there is also, I was just going to say, but the problem was when Susan got arrested, she talked to two inmates, Virginia Graham and Ronnie Howard, same name as Richie Cunningham,
Okay.
and told them about, she said, well, those murders that happened in Benedict Canyon. And the girl's like, yeah. And she goes, you know who did it, don't you? And she goes, no. And she goes, well, you're looking at her. So she went into detail about how they killed him and everything. So she was,
implicating herself.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Implicating herself and the whole family.
Right, yeah, and the family.
And so that's, so even with the copycat murders, if you had Susan in prison, it just, and the cops weren't talking to each other. That was another thing, is cops are very territorial through different counties and different districts, and had one detective reaching out to another detective going, hey, we got blood written on the wall on the Hinman case. You guys got pig on the Tate case.
Yeah.
Might be a connection. And the LAPD is like, nah.
Right. Yeah.
There's no connection.
Well, they didn't want it to get out and to get bigger and more publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the cops weren't talking to each other at all. They had 3 murders, blood on the wall, and you think that they would have,
tie it together.
Yeah, and to this day I hear that that's a problem. Cops they want to solve the case. They don't want you solving the case.
Right, definitely, yeah.
So you do have that problem with that. So anyway, so that's in a nutshell, pretty much the copycat theory. The other one is the drug burn theory. And this one, if Mike's still out there, he can help me with this one.
Okay.
There were supposedly Tex was a big time drug dealer, and he was a drug dealer for sure. That's the case. So this theory is he knew Wojciech Frykowski and Sebring, I guess, had done drug deals with him before.
Okay.
He heard about a big shipment of drugs coming, MDA, which was new back then, which was coming to the Cielo house on that day. So Tex, one of them, Tex is known for drug burnings, right? That's his deal.
Yeah.
So that's why they say he came to the house, to, supposedly telling Frykowski, where's the drugs? Hey, the guy didn't show up. And then Tex gets angry.
On crank.
And just starts wiping out everybody.
And then, so would that mean because he did that, he freaked out and went that far, that they would have to do the other murders in order to pin it on somebody else?
What now? I'm sorry.
So if that, in this case, because it was a drug burn, he goes in, he freaks out, he wipes everyone out, big mess, right?
Yeah.
So would they do the other murders in order to, again, divert attention to somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So.
Do you believe that?
No, here's why I don't. The thing is, there's no evidence that Tex knew Frykowski or knew Sebring.
Right.
It's all hearsay. This guy, and I can't remember what his name was, and Mike, take care of Mike. Mike said he had to go.
Okay.
Which this is the part where I need Mike to help me. It's okay
Thanks
though.
a lot, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. No, but I don't believe that. I don't think that Tex knew Wojciech. I don't think he knew Jay Sebring. Sebring, they talk about him being a drug dealer. Yeah, they found a small amount of cocaine.
Right, yeah.
Found 6 grams of pot. But to me, that's just all personal use.
Yeah.
Now if they found 2 pounds of cocaine,
right, yeah,
5 pounds of pot,
right,
then maybe.
Right.
And if let's say Sebring was a drug dealer, he was the hairdresser to the stars. Paul Newman, Frank Sinatra, did even Elvis's hair.
Right.
He's probably going to be dealing with celebrities and
Right,
not
yeah,
some
definitely.
fucking hippie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I forgot.
No bad language.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Preach to the choir.
But anyway, so I just don't think, even if he was a drug dealer, he wouldn't be dealing with some guy at a movie ranch who's
Tex.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, blows it. Also, the fact that they brought a change of clothing. Okay. Now, if you're going to go rob somebody, you're not going to bring a change of clothing.
Cut the telephone wires.
Cut the telephone wires. Yeah.
Get out of here.
I mean, it's premeditated. I mean,
It's about as
sounds
premeditated as it gets.
It sounds like to me you're going to go murder somebody.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's the one of the reasons I can't go with the drug thing.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that think that this whole thing was over this big mafia dude who brought this supposed to have been a huge shipment of drugs.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But if you're going to rob somebody, now I can justify the knives to scare.
Right, yeah.
Give me the money or I'll kill you,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not really going to kill anybody.
Right, right.
But man, when you bring a change of clothing,
Yeah, definitely.
that's a whole different ball game now.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
like you said, cutting the telephone wires.
Right. Yeah.
That's just premeditated
Yeah.
already. So that's kind of
Well, you would
shoots
think
that
too,
down
like,
a little
if you're
bit.
dealing, if you know that this is coming in and it's probably like some mafia dealings, or if it's going to be a load that big and you're like in the drug scene, you probably know that load of drugs is going to be protected by somebody, and they're not going to be carrying knives around.
Yeah.
Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? They're going to be protecting that with some Uzis and some muscle behind it.
Yeah,
they're
you
going to
would-
let their product.
You would think so,
get-
but I think what they think is maybe the guy had already dropped the drugs off, so the drugs are just with Frykowski.
Got it.
And so
okay.
easier to take it than from him, from a mafia and his henchmen, right?
Right.
If I was waiting on a drug dealer, Frykowski was already asleep on the couch.
Right.
I'm probably not going to sleep because I don't want to miss a big shipment
Yeah,
of dope
definitely, yeah.
or pot or whatever they have,
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
MDA.
Yeah.
So I doubt you're going to be asleep. So that, there's too much premeditation of actually
Right.
murder happening
Yeah.
for me to believe that it was a drug burn thing. The other one, which I don't know, you read a little bit, and this is the last theory we're going to go over, which will be short.
Yeah.
Because
Very short. Yeah. Yeah.
it's Tom O'Neill's book, Chaos. And to me, it's a great title because everything in it is chaos.
Yeah.
I got into about 50 pages, and I just this is, and because I know there's people out there who really believe in this book.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But to me, it's just ridiculous.
Right.
That Manson was a agent or a CIA
Operative.
Yeah. They used LSD doing these experimentations.
Right.
See if he can, actually get these people to do what he wants.
Right.
Now, and then I heard somewhere about, this could have been all from Nixon, who hated the counterculture. He hated, he did not like hippies. He didn't like the people protesting against the war, that kind of thing. So, they had them programmed to kill these people so that they could say to the society, look, we told you,
Yeah.
hippies are
That's not
dangerous.
peace and love.
This is not peace and love. This is murder. These
It's a
people are
movement.
horrible people.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't believe that either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think there would have been different ways to do that.
Right.
Than to just drug up some guy that's been in prison on LSD and hope that he goes off and starts a race war, or something to that extent.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Operation Chaos was a real thing.
yeah. And do you remember exactly?
Yeah, it was like from 1967 to 1974, pretty short-lived, but it had no boundaries. It was worldwide, and it was essentially just collecting intel on movements that would go against American values and the agenda. They were trying to get pinpoints on the racial movements that were moving at that time. And so, and it was, they, supposedly they were using hallucinogenics and these things to do experiments. But I think that it's a little bit far-fetched to believe that Charlie Manson somehow found his way into that experiment. I just think that there's too many things that could have gone wrong. And of course, they could have snuffed him out, and we talked about it during our pool meeting. I love those, by the way. Is that
He always brings up the
yeah,
pool
I
meeting.
love it. But no, we talked about maybe there is little risk involved in using somebody like Charles Manson, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that's yeah. Well, because the little collateral damage. God forbid he goes out and says, "Hey, the government's using me LSD on me." People are gonna be like, "Okay,
Yeah.
Charlie." Crazy Charlie sitting in front of the fridge again, being crazy.
Yeah, and I remember Tom O'Neill saying something about the government was hoping to work on something where they could actually program someone's mind to do something evil, But then if they were to be captured, that there was a way to erase the stuff that was in their mind.
Just wild.
So they could, which is
Yeah.
like, how in the world? I
Wild,
mean, you know,
yeah.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I just don't. So anyway, the chaos theory, like I said, if you guys want to read that book, that's fine.
Or if you want to call in and tell us about it.
If you want, if anybody wants to call in tonight, that's fine. If you got an opinion on this, but I just don't. There's too many things. I mean,
There's too many ifs.
yeah. I mean, the guy was saying like, well, you know, I think Roger Smith was his parole officer,
Right.
and that Manson, the first day he was out of prison, he violated his parole,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
By leaving town,
Yeah.
and they didn't turn him in.
Of course not.
So there's a bunch of things they said that Manson should have been in jail for, but they didn't put him back in jail. So that was kind of one of his, you know, his defense or what he used to
Right.
justify. Now,
stand
even
on,
Tom doesn't really come up with a conclusive theory at all.
Right.
Like I said, I didn't read the book, but I watched about 2 or 3 interviews with him, and he said, well, there's 3 or 4 things there. You make up your mind, and I know what I think, but he's kind of afraid to say anything.
Right.
Like it seems like he doesn't want to say what it is exactly what he believes. But you know, he said just make up your own mind, and you know,
Right. Yeah.
and
Definitely.
see what you think. Here's the evidence I did. Look at it.
Make up your own mind.
Yeah, come up with something,
Okay.
or come up with your own idea. So that's basically all the theories out there. There's a so going back to Helter Skelter. Like I said today, you know, I was really leaning towards the copycat murders,
Right.
and the Boyosee,
Yeah.
Helter Skelter.
Don't you think that those two can be intertwined?
Oh, absolutely. I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
Charlie could have been getting 2 things done with one thing.
Right.
And we didn't even talk about Terry Melcher. So let me just tell them a little
Go
bit.
for it.
Terry Melcher basically was a big record producer. He produced the Byrds, Paul Revere and the Raiders. He was a songwriter. He lived at Cielo Drive House. Manson was trying to get a record contract, which I should have talked about that earlier. But Manson wanted to be a rock star. That was
Right.
his deal. He wrote music. So he met Dennis Wilson. Dennis Wilson fell for his crazy mind game stuff, and
Right.
the Manson family ended up moving into Dennis Wilson's house, totally destroyed it, was stealing stuff, wrecked his Ferrari, totaled his Ferrari.
Just ruckus.
I think it was a Ferrari. I can't remember.
Everywhere
But
they
anyway,
went,
it was an
just
expensive
ruckus.
car. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. So finally, he discovered, hey, these guys are crazy. you know?
Right.
And he actually called his manager and said, this little guy scares the hell out of me. And he goes,
Little guy. Yeah.
I want you to, I'm going to leave the house, but I want you to get someone to move all my stuff out.
Right.
They wouldn't leave. They stayed at his house.
Yeah.
So these were like, it sounds so bad. It's dirty hippies.
Yeah, damn dirty hippies.
Damn dirty hippies, as Rick Dalton would say. But I censored it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was trying to get all these people out. He said, you know, they stunk. They were never showering.
Right.
and
Yeah.
So
Dirty hippies.
But he thought. But anyway, so through Dennis, he introduced or talked to Terry Melcher about when he was a supporter of Manson. He
Right.
said, "Hey man, you got to listen to this guy. He's amazing."
Yeah.
Charlie wrote a few songs. He does have a couple songs out there. They're not bad. They just need
Yeah.
a little tightening
yeah.
up. So Melcher did listen to him, and thought he didn't have much talent, but told Charlie, he said, he goes, or I can't remember if he told Charlie or Dennis, but he's like, I don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
And they even went to Brian Wilson's studio, had Manson over there, and Charlie be playing a song, and it's you can find that on YouTube.
Right.
And you can tell he's nervous.
Yeah.
And they're saying, "Hey, Charlie, just calm down." He's like, "Hey, man, if you're behind your,
Yeah.
And so they would
No
make,
criticism.
yeah, he couldn't take any criticism. He wanted his music to be represented only by him and how he wanted it.
Right.
He didn't want anybody producing him or telling him what to do. So if they said, "Hey, Charlie, let's speed that song up." Hey, man, that's my song. You're
Yeah.
So he got angry, and then rumor has it that eventually he pulled a knife on the engineer.
Oh my God.
And Dennis Wilson said, "Charlie, what the hell,
Yeah,
man?"
yeah.
He goes, "You can't do that."
Yeah.
And so that's probably when Dennis started seeing this guy's
Off his
nuts.
rocker,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mike Love. They all met him and said he was crazy.
Batshit crazy.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it'd be funny. What if Charlie followed them and became a rock star?
Well, we talked about that earlier.
Even Neil Young said Charles Manson was a good songwriter.
Right. Yeah.
he did collab. He hung out in the Beverly Hills area for a while.
Right.
Through Terry Melcher, met a bunch of people, and they can say, yeah, he's decent.
I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier. Is like he continuously put himself in situations, whether they be good situations or bad situations. He was always there.
Yeah.
It seems like, a lot of people knew who he was. He was, 'cause I'm not going to say prominent at that time, but I mean, he's there, a dirty hippie hanging out in Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
like in the studio with some real deal
And that
people
was
in the
pretty
industry.
commonplace. I mean, when he got out of prison, he went to Haight Ashbury. It's the first place he went.
Right. Yeah.
Where all the hippies were, and he took that role on.
Right.
And so he looked like a musician.
Right,
He had long
absolutely.
hair,
Yeah.
played guitar. Girls.
Had a pretty good voice, really.
Yeah, it was a
Interesting.
different voice. If Charlie would have, there's one song he has that's kind of decent, and if he would have listened to him, they maybe could have did something with it. Now,
Right.
Dennis Wilson did take a song from Manson called "Cease to Exist,"
Right.
and they put it on the 2020 Beach album. That's what the name of the album was, 2020.
Right.
And they changed the whole arrangement. And Charles Manson, and they didn't give him any credit
Oh, God.
on it. So he
Yeah.
was furious.
I'm sure.
Absolutely furious that Dennis and the Beach Boys, he said, screwed up my song, man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
They
you
didn't
should-
do it good enough.
Why didn't
yeah.
you just leave it like it was? And supposedly, what he didn't understand is, again, I don't know this to be true, but supposedly Dennis gave him like a few $1,000s for the song.
Right.
But Charlie took that as that's just like an advance or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Charlie, wouldn't it have been interesting? It had it went the other way. Just so
definitely.
would we be listening to Charlie Manson
Well, we talk about
albums?
unique voices. I mean, you spoke of Neil Young,
Yeah,
but like you said, he couldn't tighten it up. He couldn't take criticism.
he couldn't. He was too much of a control
the
freak,
Napoleon
which
effect.
kind of goes with the Helter Skelter thing,
Right. Yeah.
of control. He was totally wanted control of everything.
Well, after talking with you about this for, over the months, and because we revisited this over the last year or so that we've been doing, or we're going on a year of doing the show in October. We've talked about the Manson case off and on. As we were gearing up for this, kind of delving more into it, and again, having more conversations with you, it kind of seems like to me, you had Bill Yossi on one side that's taken all these details from the case, all these stories, connecting all the puzzle pieces into Helter Skelter, and then you had a perfect storm of Charlie Manson on the other side that was also taking all these pieces,
Yeah.
and he was putting them together for his agenda,
Right.
and it just fit perfectly for Bill Yossi,
Yeah,
and perfect storm.
yeah, absolutely was.
Hurricane Charlie, man.
Man, yeah. So wrapping this all up, I've seen for Boyosi,
Yeah,
starting the war, I've seen Manson in interviews saying, when they asked about Tex Watson, he was a good soldier, man. He was in that war.
yeah,
So again, he's bringing up the war.
right, yeah,
And I've heard him say that more than once.
Yeah.
Good soldier.
super aggressive language.
Yeah, so it kind of goes with the Helter Skelter theme. He was at the La Biancas. He said he didn't tell anybody to kill anybody. However, on an interview, I heard him say, they said, well, Charlie, didn't you tell Tex, like, when you murder these people, don't put panic in them.
Right.
Keep everybody calm. And he goes, yeah, I might have said something like that. And he said, because, when you're in a war and you kill somebody, if they're in a panic, it's bad karma.
Right. Yeah.
So you want them, to be
Not know it's
cool,
coming.
not
yeah.
know it's coming, and kill them, and then not kill them while they're
what a-
scared. So that almost, to me, he used the word war,
Right.
soldier, and he basically, to me, he just admitted that
You told him how to do it.
you told him how to do it, how to
Yeah,
kill these people.
Right.
Well,
and when you have like 2 or 3 different murder scenes where the same thing was said and the same outcome happened, at that point, I think you can kind of assume. Well, and I don't know if they do a lot of assuming in court, but if he said, "Okay, do you know what to do?" They go kill somebody.
yeah,
You know what to do. They go
Yeah.
kill somebody. Every time you say you know what to do, they kill somebody.
right.
Right.
Yeah, it's
There's
a
some
mafia.
language there. Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what? You take care of that thing for me.
Forget about it.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
you do that thing for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the talking
Essentially it
code.
was. Yeah,
kinda.
absolutely.
But Charlie, I think that's one of the things he really chose his words,
Right.
so that it wouldn't come, huh?
Yeah, she said what?
No, he chose
Well,
his.
he was like ambiguous.
no,
like,
he chose his
yeah.
words to keep himself out of trouble. Chose. Okay, sorry. He chose his words. He chose them.
Chose those words.
That's my southern stuff coming out. But yeah, he chose his words carefully,
Stay
so that
ambiguous and-
because he seriously thought, he goes, I'm not going to go to. I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we talked about this before. If I say, Garrett, go jump off that bridge,
Okay, bye, Keith.
and then
Go find that
so
coconut.
why am I responsible?
Yeah,
Because you were stupid enough to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was very careful. He wasn't stupid about. I mean, he tried to keep himself, and he really seriously thought
He groomed.
he
these
would be
people,
found
man.
not guilty.
He groomed these people to work on his behalf
He did.
by microdosing LSD, by
Right.
chanting and
The other thing with me too, on leaning towards Vince's, again, there I go, Vince, Mr. Boyosi's theory is that all the girls to this day say that Charlie preached about it, said, stuck his head in there. He said, hey, when you guys, go and kill these people,
his little head.
leave something witchy, write something witchy on the wall. Now, and with his interview of Diane Sawyer, she said, now, Charlie, you were told that you told the girls to leave something witchy.
You're gonna piss off all the witches watching now.
Yeah. And he said, yeah, I said that. He said, because when you do something, do it well. Leave it, let them, give them a sign.
Guilty.
Give them a sign that you know you were there.
Oh my God.
He goes, and he said, just like I would tell you, if you go do something, do it well.
I remember
and
that,
let them
yeah.
know you did it.
Yeah.
So again, it's almost like he's kind of, and with some of the things he said, he's almost admitting, to,
Right.
but he may say, hey man, they were going to do what and his big thing was, hey, they did what they wanted to do.
Right. Nothing
You
to
know?
gain from these.
So if you're going to go, so he would say, I'm sure in his mind, it's like, hey, if you're going to go do that, let them know you're there.
Right.
Do something cool, man.
Right.
With it, if you guys are going to kill, and I'm not saying kill anybody, but if you do,
if you do,
yeah, write something on the wall.
Helter Skelter. If you have,
Yeah. Pigs.
yeah, yeah.
But-
Well, it's just these women. They're now elderly. They've got nothing to gain from lying at this point.
And here's the argument on that with the other people who think that it wasn't the Helter Skelter.
Boyosi was bullshit.
The ones that think Boyosi was bullshit is they say, well, it looks better for the girls now for parole if they go with what the prosecution said, that they're going with the system, they're going with the flow.
Right.
Better chance of getting out of prison.
Right.
And so they're absolutely lying about it.
But they've been denied parole over and over again.
Yeah, the weird thing is Leslie Van Houten's been approved for parole twice and has been denied.
Right.
Bruce Davis, I think, and he was, God, we may have to do another show.
Okay.
He was in on Shorty Shay's killing, and he's been granted parole 4 times.
Right.
But the governor's,
They don't want that on there.
no, it's political suicide. If like I said, there's not going to be one governor that's going to go, oh, I'm responsible for letting one of the Manson family out.
Man,
Now-
and if you take a step back, what's so intriguing, and because we kind of hearkened to this at the beginning of the show, why is this case so intriguing? All these years later is because now you look at it like from a standing off position. Is you said it best. You're like, they're essentially political prisoners.
Yeah, they are.
And then on the
In a
other
way.
side, and on the other side,
Which
of the
I even
pancake-
hate saying that.
I know, but on the other side of the pancake, then you have politicians that you say are like they're committing political suicide, right?
Yeah.
Because if they allow these perpetrators to be granted parole, then their chances of continuing in their profession are pretty
Right.
essentially over as they see it.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, then you don't believe in the judicial system, I guess. I hate to say, right? Because it seems like they should be in prison forever.
Yeah, you would think so.
Definitely a crime that
But
calls
I-
for that.
Yeah, but and I tend to believe what the girls are saying, that Manson did order these murders. Okay, here's my bottom line. I think there was 2 theories put together.
Right.
Okay, I think it was the copycat murders, and I think there was a bit of Helter Skelter. Now and there could have been revenge on, that's another one, revenge on Terry Melcher, that if he killed everybody at the Cielo house, that it would send a message to Melcher, you better watch it.
Right.
But at the same time, then why go do the next day crime?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense either.
Right.
But yeah, so I kind of, I think it's very possible that I don't think he believed the race war.
Right.
But
He had people believing it.
right. So I mean, and I still think he was pissed off about not getting his record contract. He knew the house. He hated the society at whole.
Right.
And then plus, he may have thought, well, maybe we can do these copycat murders, get Bobby released.
Right.
It's just crazy.
It is crazy.
But at the same time, I get my vengeance out kind of on Terry. Maybe send him a message, maybe, and then tell the girls I'm trying to start or in Texas as well, that I'm starting a war. Every one of their, Susan Atkins' book, Texas book, all the interviews, they all said that Manson constantly talked about this racial war, Helter Skelter. There's just not really any really good evidence that I've seen that proves this was, a CIA operation.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
A drug burn.
Right.
For Tex to, I wouldn't have put it past Tex if.
Well, and there could have been it could have been a drug burn in there with Little Papa or whatever.
Right, but like again, getting back to if it's robbery, you're not going to bring a change of clothes and cut the phone lines.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I said, and a good point you brought up, and it's something I've always thought about is why would the girls at this point lie?
Yeah, there's no reason to.
Yeah, there isn't. So I mean,
it's just so. I hate to use the word fascinating when we do these shows, but just like when we're able to look at it all these years later, put the timeline to it, and even like historical references, with the JFK assassination, the Vietnam War going on, this like social and racial like upheaval. It is just like the perfect storm for all of these.
Yeah.
And I hate to even say characters, but characters to come into play in the story. The timing of it, you got Bugliosi and Manson at odds coming up with these theories separately.
Yeah.
That are so uniquely meant for each other.
Right.
And then it happened. And it's like it's mind boggling.
Yeah, and some of Bugliosi's stuff could have been exaggerated.
Right.
Again, he had Linda Kasabian read verbatim.
Right.
So how much truth is in that statement? We don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
Linda Kasabian's not talking.
Right.
She barely does interviews, and she did an interview with Vince Bugliosi. I think it was on Larry King.
Okay.
Years ago, before Vince passed away. And again, I'm sorry, Vince, like I know him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just so I think it was a little of both.
I agree.
That he used the Helter Skelter thing to get what he wanted done.
Here's what Charlie gave him.
Yeah, yeah. So do I think Manson believed it? Nah.
No.
And there could be a part of this could be in his crazy mind, maybe thinking, man, how far could I get these people to go? Could I get away with this? Could I actually have them to go?
I think he could have. That's the wild thing.
He could have. Had Susan Atkins not said anything, if everybody would kept their mouth shut. Now, the problem was that with Bobby in prison, and Susan said he ratted on her. That's what got her arrested for the first degree murder. Even if Susan kept her mouth shut, it was still, I think it would have tied back to the ranch.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think Bobby would have said, yeah, Charlie,
right.
Told me to kill him. And
yeah. Do you think that like, even if they would have thought it was a race war, and they would have gone a completely separate way, that DNA, I mean, there had to be DNA left all over the freaking place.
Yeah, all over the place. Yeah, but there was, from what I understand, none of them were cut. I don't think there was any blood.
100.
Now he did.
Wounds,
oh, get this.
Dude.
So this is how bad the crime scene was. So as they were leaving, Tech's hands is covered in blood. He pushes the button or something to get out of the gate.
Right.
And so there's a bloody fingerprint. Well, the cop who showed up pushes the button.
Oh God.
Yeah, to open the gate. destroy, you know, and
Does he know at that point that there's
I
dead
don't
people
think
inside?
so, but I
Yeah.
mean, but if you're a good detective or a cop, you would, you know, I'm not touching
Right.
I'm going to look at the button and probably even see if there's a
Right.
way I can get in without using the button.
Right.
You know, because what they did is they climbed over. There's an embankment, as you saw in there. There's like a little dirt embankment. They just crawled over the embankment.
Right,
They
right.
didn't use the gate.
Yeah.
So Tex Watson's. And anyway, so they did get a fingerprint, and after Susan ratted on everybody, they did match his fingerprint.
Okay.
It did match.
Yeah.
100%. So he was there at the scene.
They were going to get caught eventually.
They were going to get caught
Yeah.
eventually, yeah. But like you said, if the Hemman, you know, if the Hemman murder, if Susan wouldn't have said anything again, I still think it would have went back to the ranch,
Right. Yeah.
you know. So I think it all started with that, and also I think he had alternative motives to get money or try to, you know, because they did take some money, but they didn't. You know, there were probably some very valuable stuff in that house
Definitely.
that they didn't
Yeah.
take.
Oh,
And
definitely.
even Lena LaBianca had this coin collection
Right.
that was worth several $1,000s. I'm
Right.
sure they
Yeah.
didn't take any of that. But again, it could be, well, you know, if I have this in my possession, this may
Right.
not be a good
Yeah, yeah.
idea.
But
And
then,
then
I mean, to that point, though, but yeah, they still got the bloody clothes. They still got the weapons, you know. It's just reckless.
Yeah,
He just played too hard. I hate to use that word, but to him, it was a game, it seems like, to
Yeah.
Manson.
and that's what I said. I just wonder if part of him was like, let's just see how far. I wonder how far I can take
Well,
this.
and I have all these problems around me. You know, I got potentially the Black Panthers that are going to come wipe us
Yeah.
out. I've got Bobby in prison.
Yeah.
You know, hey, let's see. Maybe this play works.
Yeah,
And if he wouldn't have been so reckless and crazy, it might have. That's the scary thing.
yeah.
We might not even be talking about this right now.
Right. So I wonder, you know, had Bobby not killed Gary Hemman, I wonder if the Tate murders would have happened or the LaBianca
Man,
murders.
that's crazy, dude.
So it all started with that, but it kind of started really with
Manson.
Bernard Crowe and the Straight Satans.
At the end of the day, it all starts with Manson.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
It all comes back to him.
So yeah, that's what I think too. But yeah, so the way I vote is I think it was a little bit Helter Skelter and a little bit of the drug or the copycat murders.
Right. I agree. I completely agree.
Because, you know, didn't want Bobby talking.
Right. What an insane story.
Yeah, and that's, you know, we're touching
Sad,
the
dude.
iceberg on some of
I
this
know.
stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff we didn't go into, but I'm kind of
Like what? Like,
Oh,
give me one thing.
Let me think.
Not to put you on the spot, but
You're putting me on the spot because I'm tired.
okay. No, it's okay. That's okay. I mean, dude, this is
No,
one
but
of
when
those
we could talk
cases.
about Squeaky Fromm and the you know, trying to kill President Ford, she said she felt bad because all her friends were in prison. She wasn't, and that she felt like she needed to do something.
survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because she felt
Okay.
like she needed to do something,
They were freaking crazy, dude.
but so was she. And
That's
she,
what I'm saying. Like, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
bizarre.
So yeah, so I mean that's one thing. I mean I'm sure if I sit here we could
Yeah.
talk about one, you know, thing for another hour. But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of theories out there, and so Pam, what has there been any questions, any comments that we need to hear? Are you playing your game?
Yeah, there's a few comments. Terry Melcher was Doris Day's son.
Yes, that's true.
Comments about the Beach Boys, and it was really more Dennis than, you know, everybody met him, but it was Dennis who really kind of
Yeah,
had more engagement.
Dennis
with
had
Charlie.
Dennis called him the Wizard.
Yeah. LSD was legal during Manson's activities,
Yep.
you know. And Mike's Time Machine just kind of added comments throughout. So
Yeah, then I see someone put the process, which I don't think. I think that's a far reach.
What is that?
It was like something even when where I learned it from was the Son of Sam killings. That it was a satanic organization.
Okay.
They killed people around. That supposedly Manson was part of it. I think he probably knew about them, but I don't think they had any. Charlie's not going to let anybody influence him.
It's Charlie's world.
It's Charlie's world, and what Charlie says is what Charlie says,
Yeah.
and that's what he believes. I don't think he would have allowed any other organization
Right.
try to change his mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he was narcissistic.
Yeah.
He just it wouldn't have happened.
Pat said we definitely needed more Pam in this.
I hope the show wasn't boring.
No, it's really fascinating. It really is.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, like I said, all these, I didn't know about all these theories till a couple of years ago. I was like,
Right.
wow. So
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch out there, and I'm not saying I'm right. I could be wrong.
Right,
I
definitely.
absolutely could be wrong. But from the evidence and the interviews I've watched, and Charlie slips up a lot of times and says things
Right.
like, well, I may have been indirectly involved.
Reckless.
He said that. So
Yeah.
indirectly involved. So you could say, okay, if I told you to kill someone and you killed them, I'm indirectly involved. Not directly because I didn't do it.
Right.
I didn't do it, but I told you to do it. So yeah, he said I might have been indirectly involved. He's kind of said stuff like that, but he goes back and forth. And the one thing about when he's gonna lie, of course, to get himself out of
Right,
trouble.
yeah.
So some of the Manson cronies out there go, oh man, Charlie said that he, it's like Charlie's been a con man his whole life.
Yeah.
Charlie lies.
Charlie cut somebody's
Charlie
ear off
goes
with a sword.
Yeah, Charlie goes back and forth, just like, I just thought just hit me, but
Yeah.
or went away. But yeah, he's a liar.
Right. Yeah.
So
He's a roller coaster, man.
right? Like, okay, it just can't. He when he said he did say, okay, I went to the crime scene, right? And then in another interview, he said, no, man, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So he's totally, he doesn't tell the truth.
Right.
He's someone you can't trust.
Play the game all the way till the end.
Yeah,
though.
so it's kind of amazing to me that some of his cronies, so there's a couple of YouTube channels, one I know of, that they're kind of a la Manson supporters,
Right, yeah.
Well, Charlie said he would never do, and I got to know Charlie, by phone. He was really cool. It's like,
Okay.
yeah, but he's a con man.
Yeah.
And that's his job. He will tell you first of all, I'm an outlaw.
Yeah.
And he said all the
definitely.
time, I'm an outlaw, man. I don't live in your world.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't follow your rules.
Right.
You guys have your own rules. I've got my own.
Swastika on the forehead.
Swastika on the forehead, which he said was not Nazi. It was, he said Hitler stole that, which I think was true.
Yeah.
But, so.
But just playing the game constantly.
Yeah.
Never ending.
Yeah. So to end this thing, so Garrett,
I agree with you. I think that it was just the perfect storm. It was Hurricane Charlie all the way. It was his world. He thought he could get himself out of a predicament that was surrounding him. And then on the other side, Bugliosi seized on the opportunities that Charlie and the girls gave him. And
Yeah.
he put together a theory that stuck. He got the right people to get on the stand and to say what he wanted, legal or not legal, it happened. And because of those two scenarios, we're sitting here talking about it today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, even if it was the Helter Skelter theory all the way, it's still interesting.
No, absolutely.
As horrible as what happened, but it's
Right.
just so bizarre.
Yeah.
That you could actually get people to do these things for you. And I mean, that's something he constantly said. Now, man, he goes, look at me. He goes,
Yeah.
No one's going to do anything. No one's going to do nothing for me. He goes, what do you
Right.
think? They do what they want to do.
Yeah.
So
then
he
you
really
got-
played that down as being a cult leader.
Yeah, and then you got somebody like Squeaky,
Mind control.
Squeaky that's wanting to be in prison and not feeling a part of the family because of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get people to do things for you, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so I think it was a game for him the entire time. And again, it's not a game whenever he's putting people on these missions and everything like that. But for him, right, he's like, okay, let me see if I can
think
get
it-
myself out of this pickle again.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat of a game.
Yeah,
he was playing with them just
Yeah.
to see, like, how far can I get these people to, because they said constantly he would ask them, would you die for me, and would you kill for me?
Right. Which
And
is
all
a
of them said,
tyrant's
yes, of
playbook,
course.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like almost every cult, and again,
It is.
they said it all started out just peace, love, sharing.
That's how it always starts out. We talked about that in the
Yeah,
cold
it
episode.
started out really good. And then
Hugs and acceptance and, outcasts come in here.
Right.
Be a part of this.
right, he's like, hey man, I gave your kids a place to live. I fed
Right.
them, took care of them.
Saddam Hussein would do the same thing, dude.
Yeah.
He would go in, he would walk into a village, a poor village, and he would look in their refrigerator, and there would obviously be no food because he's starving people.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd say, what is wrong with this picture? Give them food. And he would fill the fridge up and keep them under his control. Right? And so
Yeah.
that's what Charlie was doing, is constantly taking and giving and taking and giving.
Yeah.
And it was a game to him, and he played it all the way to the end, man. His interviews were always crazy and unpredictable, much
Yeah.
like Charlie was. And so, fascinating story, fascinating
Yeah,
conversation.
it is. It
really
is. But
good job.
oh, well, thank you. Good job to you.
Yeah,
too.
really.
And thank you guys for showing up tonight. Also, we need to say that we want to thank you guys because we got Garrett a chair.
Look, the arms
How about
are stuck.
that?
The arms are stuck. I can't beat
Mona
to death with it.
Yeah, is Mona still out there?
I think so.
Okay.
Mona, look.
Mona, look, we got a chair finally. And that was from your donations and also some of the income we make on here, which is not very much. but
hey,
it's okay.
Stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe because if you haven't listened to all of our shows, if maybe you tuned in just for this episode, we cover a lot of different things.
Yeah, I saw someone that said they're a first-time watcher in there earlier.
Good. Yeah. Make sure you subscribe. Go back and listen. So kind of what to look forward to is we're going to do a show next week. Undetermined. We've talked about disappearing, some things. We're trying to get through summer. We called this earlier like our summer shows.
Yeah.
But once we get through summer, it's all hands on deck. I can't wait for the kids to go back to school and living that life after life.
And then
life again.
And then you'll have some time.
I can't wait, dude. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Right,
Love
right.
this show.
Yeah, I do too. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Again, we'll
Great
announce.
show, Pamela.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it.
Good job, everybody.
Pamela didn't want to do it. Thank you for doing it, Pamela.
Yeah, Pamela, I will say that she did not want anything to do with this show. And I'm glad that you showed up. Thank you very much.
She's smarter than all of us.
Did everybody behave today?
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome.
Good. That's awesome. Okay. Well, now I got to find a picture. I'm always horrible about that. We'll show that picture. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Love you guys.
Thank you.